Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the CleanTech Lithium PLC investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab that's just situated in the right-hand corner of your screen. Please simply type in your questions at any time and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. These will be available via your Investor Meet Company dashboard, and we will notify you by email when these are ready for your review. Before we begin, I would like to submit the following poll, and if you'd give that your kind attention, I'm sure the company would be most grateful. And I'd now like to hand you over to CEO Aldo Butano. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. We'll start by introducing ourselves. I'm the CEO of CleanTech Lithium. This is a very important opportunity for us to show the projects and what we do. I have a background in renewable energies and mining engineering. And I'm a civil industrial engineer, an MBA, and a doctoral degree in the US. With that, I would like to introduce two of our distinguished board members, the chairman, Steve Kessler, and the CFO, Gordon Stein. Very valuable to the organization, and let them introduce themselves. Steve, you have to unmute yourself. Steve.
Sorry.
Again, unmute, just one click. There you are.
There you go. Yeah, I've been in the mining industry my entire mining career. Experience with both major junior mining companies, in particular with lithium and European lithium in recent years, and many years of experience in Chile with both Escondida and as the first CEO of Collahuasi. Gordon?
Yeah, I'm a chartered accountant by background. I've been in the energy industry and natural resources for over 30 years, been CFO of 5 different public companies. I'm non-exec director of a number of public companies as well.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you both. We'll get to explain you a little bit what we're doing, where are we doing it. We have 2 projects. We control 2 entire basins in the southern tip of the lithium triangle. They're called Laguna Verde and Francisco Basin. Both of them have a combined area of 187 square kilometers. That's more or less the twice the size of Central Paris. We are working from day one on a clean path on a combination of renewable energy and clean production, with the aim of achieving as low as emissions as we can, or 0 emissions. Already have a 1.2 million tons JORC compliant resource estimate in Laguna Verde, and working hard to increase that, and also to add to the resource estimation Francisco Basin. I'll go in detail in the next slides with that. Again, our board, there's 3 out of 4 here doing the presentation for you. It's very experienced, and our idea and our work in the past is to take projects into development. Again, highly prospective assets. We're close at the end of 2024 is the original scheduled production times. We're using direct lithium extraction plant. We're ahead in that in many senses. It'll be again explained later. And what I said already about utilizing renewable energy. We already are listed in the stock market. It's an attractive entry point. We will show how we compare with other companies and what we think the stock market will react to our flowing announcements. So let's go and take a view of the sites. This is Laguna Verde. You can see the impact of a drill well that is now being used for sampling and other activities. That's all we leave when we get out of sight and with all the machinery that drilled this. So Laguna Verde, it's a steep valley basin. Again, we control both of these basins with the majority of the land control, land management. It's 15.8 square kilometers, and we have already a JORC compliant resource. As I said, 1.2 million tons of lithium. The base grade that everything is based on is the grade of the lagoon. And then Francisco Basin. It's a salar and a lagoon, and we're drilling there, and we've had initial surface sample and also from drilling that we did in 2018 that make us very optimistic on adding this to our resources. Laguna Verde is very, very unique. You can see the big 400 meters, 300 meters thick underlying brine under the lagoon. All the measurement we did and all the inferred resources are based around the lagoon. We're doing more geophysics and intend to do drilling on the margins of the basin to expand the size of the basin. The resource can go up in 3 ways: more grade, that as we go deeper in the basin and drill, something we've done. Again, I'll explain in the next couple of slides. With all the porosity and analysis of the feeding of the brine from the adjacent rocks and minerals, and also by expanding the deepness of the aquifer, something we've also done in some of our drilling. That's what we're currently doing. We're drilling LBO1, LBO3, and LBO2. LBO3 is currently at 457 meters. We drilled very deep in LBO1 at 474. The brine aquifer thickness is 348. That adds 48 meters to what we originally thought was the thickness of the brine. LBO2 close to what we thought it was the deepness of the brine. And like I said, the updated number of LBO3 is now 457. We're going to be drilling LBO4 soon, and again, we've been producing geophysics on this part of the basin, and we'll update the market and all of you fairly soon with that information. This is again all the information about Laguna Verde. The idea of these holes is to be produced and moved later on into being monitoring or production holes. You just already saw the impact. This is what we're doing while drilling, and then we leave just small footprint and a deep hole that allow us to continue the studies and to update the resources. It's massive. If you go to these places, you can see the big size and the extent of the basin. That speaks for both. We were on site recently with the CFO and the group controller, and visiting both campsites and all the work being done. And you need either binoculars or know exactly where the things are to be able to pick them up from the basin. That's how big our land control and what we're doing there. Going to FBO1, that is currently at 284 meters. This is a figure from yesterday. Now it's 284. We're going to be moving to FB to a second hole as soon as we finish this one. This is a big diameter hole. We started with 12 inches. We're down to 10, and we are thinking that we'll be able to case it all the way down to 8-inch hole. That will be a future production or monitoring hole, and will help us something very important to the market, to move from zero inferred resources lithium tonnage into a positive number that will expand the resources we have and hopefully the price of the stock. This is photos of all our work. I referred to the trip of our CFO and our group controller, the sampling. This is angle drilling, so we get directly to the zone. This is direct drilling. And that's the view again on all our license area. We control all these extended basins, and it's very impressive to go there and see where we are. The board, I already mentioned people of the board. Very importantly, these two people down here are two of the top 5 world experts. They're working with us on the scoping studies ad infinitum and working on the DLE on Beyond Lithium. They're both Chilean and very respected worldwide. Our strategy with direct lithium extraction, and there's a nice video on the website, is to basically extract the brine directly from the subsurface aquifer that is pumped up, and then we'll re-inject the brine without lithium 100% back into the basin in a place that it will not dilute the brine that we're extracting. It also allows us a double of the recovery rate. Traditional evaporation ponds with a big footprint on environmental footprint take around 40% of the brine. We will extract more than 80% of the brine. The capex, it's somewhat lower because you don't need to build evaporation ponds. The OpEx is not significantly higher. Gordon Stein can respond more specific questions about that at the end of this presentation. But more importantly, it takes a full year less to develop because you don't need to build all the evaporation ponds and all the work related to that. So that's why we have this very aggressive timeline that we've been monitoring. How and why can we do this? The only way to do it is to control a full basin. If you have competing neighbors, brine neighbors, people trying to do the same thing as you, it's very complicated to control all the variables of the hydrogeology and the pumping and the re-injection. Very importantly, too, in both places, there's no indigenous or local community. We've been working close to them. They're on their way to sites, but they're 1,000 meters below and they're 160 kilometers away at least. But again, we've been working with them on both projects and everything. Both projects sit at 4,300 meters. That's something that you all need to know, and that's very important. It's one of the reasons there's no any flora in both places. There's some fauna north of us in Francisco Basin in an adjacent national park, but nothing in Laguna Verde. DLE, we started, as I said earlier, in 2017. We worked with world-class providers, but it ended up agreeing on buying the technology on our behalf, something we're currently working on doing. We'll have a big announcement of the proof of the metallurgical process, producing the first kilo of battery-grade lithium that are going to be sent to labs and sampled and sent to potential future purchasers or part of the strategic work we're doing. And then we'll go into the pilot plant. We're already planning all those stages that will produce 10 tons per month of battery grade, and the plan is to produce it for 3 consecutive months. That's something that will start at the mid of the year. We'll patent this and go on not only to serve our 2 sites, but potentially to work with other people who would like to benefit from our experience by working in collaboration with us. Something very important and something I've been involved with is the development of Chile as a world-class renewable energy place. This is a gold district, and Kinross specifically, and also Barrick, have developed a lot of infrastructure that, with roads and electrical accessibility, with substations and many things, and we're taking advantage of that. We're just a kilometer away from with our land control to the Francisco Basin substation with ample energy to connect, and only 60 kilometers away in Laguna Verde. Our aim is to agree a PPA, a power purchase agreement, with vendors that will provide us 24/7 renewable energy. But not only that, we also on site, specifically in Francisco Basin, we have geothermal activity. 3 of the wells we've done have shown temperatures ranging from 17 to 29 degrees Celsius, and that it's also potential for reducing our footprint, using some of our energy to increase the temperature of the brine on the processing of the direct lithium extraction. Again, our aim is to be a green European listed company that will attract not only investors, will attract strategic partnerships. There's 4 ways that we can increase our value on the market with the news flow that we have planned. Is expanded resources with the lab information coming in the next month or so from Francisco Basin and Laguna Verde. Again, the direct lithium extraction metallurgical process proof with the 1 kilo production, the starting and the beginning of the pilot plan, and also very importantly to show our commitment from beginning to production. We're starting fairly soon the scoping study, all the engineering work related to that, and the PFS, the pre-feasibility study, with world-class providers like Worley Parsons, and also the environmental studies with the beginning of the baselines. And we're with the only listed company, as we're aware, that don't have an offtake agreement. We are working with various parties around the world on forging a strategic partnership. With all that, I'll leave it to Steve Kessler, our distinguished chairman, to talk about the market and us. Steve.
I think most people are aware with the great demand for lithium worldwide at the moment. Forecast increase in demand in the world is 7 times the current demand in the next 10 years. But in Europe, in the EU, that is 20 times the current demand in the EU. So very, very fast growth. And that's driven by the desire for the EU to commit to reduce the effects of carbon on global warming. So the car manufacturers are shifting to electric. There's a whole range of battery producers starting work in the EU. That's driving this very rapid increase in demand in the EU. But the EU not only needs the lithium, but it wants it from low carbon sources. The EU is really gearing up to make sure that right throughout its supply chain, it's minimizing carbon use. And if we compare our project at CleanTech Lithium, where we aim to have close to zero carbon dioxide emissions and very low water consumption as well, compared to the hard rock mines you'll find in Australia and Africa, and the traditional brine operations using evaporative ponds. So we expect to be one of the greenest, if not the greenest supplier of lithium. And we strongly believe that over a period of time, we will see premiums being attracted into this low carbon lithium supply. Okay, over to Aldo. Unmute.
Gordon, this is for Gordon to
Yeah, sorry, but it's rather small here, but it's always difficult to compare companies because all companies at different stages of their growth and evaluation, etc. But what we've got here is two tables here, one for the DLE you see at the bottom there, and others for other listed companies that are playing in this space. You see there at the bottom, we're based a valuation based on 1.2 million inferred resources. That's from a JORC resource. We are now reviewing that. As I say, we'll be within the next 6 to 8 weeks. We'll be putting out new data on that coming from the drilling results. There's nothing in there for Francisco Basin. That's 0 at the moment. That will go up. It'll go up from 0 to something. So that information will be out in the market within the next 6 to 8 weeks. Drilling campaigns will end in mid-May. Because of the winter season coming on. So we'll during that period from mid-May onwards will be the evaluation stage and then the resource estimates. But based on what we've got at the moment, it's 1.2 million inferred resource. And that, as Aldo says, was just around the basis of the Laguna in Laguna Verde and underneath that. It doesn't take any extent. And I think Aldo had mentioned when I went out there with our financial controller a couple of weeks ago, I was just astounded by the sheer scale of what we saw. It is quite enormous, the extent of the license position, and obviously over the coming years we'll look to extend that footprint and see what the boundaries of the reservoirs are. In terms of comparables, probably the nearest comparable company in terms of what they're doing is Lake Resources. You see them there on the bottom table at the top. They've got we're at $13 per ton EV. They're at something like 280. They're doing something not dissimilar to us. They've got a pilot plant. They've now got some offtakes, at least some non-binding offtake agreements. So there's people circling them in terms of offtake. As Aldo mentions, we've got a number of ways we can improve our valuation significantly over the next year, 2 years. We've got a resource drilling coming through. We've got contracts we would hope to announce in terms of progress. We've got other activities that we're looking to progress, and obviously the pilot plant looking to commence that tail end of this year, when we'll look to get real live data. And as Aldo mentioned, we've got the kilo. Once we've got the kilo announcement out, that demonstrates the DLE process as our process works. So we think we're particularly undervalued. We came in at that price in the IPO during a war that just started. So I think we're in a really good place to see ourselves kick on in the coming year. And I personally would expect the valuation to increase significantly. over the next year, 2 years.
Thank you, Gordon. You wanna talk about this?
Yeah, one of the questions was about our major shareholders. It's probably worth mentioning the major shareholders here in the table. You've got actually 31% of our stock is still held by management and board, locked in at least for a year plus. As you see there, the other major shareholders, we've got Regal Funds, 2 funds based out of Australia, who've been very supportive. They held their corner in the last round, 9.3%. We've got an individual shareholder, Tim Leslie, with 8%, and then we've got Argonaut, basically out another Australian entity there, and then the board have put money in the last in both raises. So that's our shareholder base, and we've got quite a good institutional following. I think during the last raise, we got good support from the UK institutional base in particular, and also we had conversations with other entities in Australia and elsewhere. So we've got a good base for moving forward.
So just to recap the invitation, and we'll go with the questions right after this. This 2 prospective assets. There's a question about other assets. We're always looking into other potential either collaborations, associations, or owning more assets. But we have this very not only rare, unique in the lithium triangle that we control 2 entire basins, not 1 but 2. The direct lithium extraction really makes us different at the stage of the development. We are owning the technology and the work versus other companies, and the fact that most of the infrastructure is built already and we can use it in a quick way to go to market fairly fast. Again, because of the various variables, including the world that started when we were listed, something we're very proud of, that being able to list with that world environment. And again, the proven management team. How many times you have a chairman that has built not 1 but 2 of the largest copper mines, and from zero to production, and the same of the other team members. Have an experienced CFO and financial controllers, not only on the finance side but also on the operational side. We're staffing the Chile team with a COO, with finance or controller, with various engineers and engineering capacities and environmental supervision capacities, law firms, etc. All that to really do this and make it happen and to benefit all of us. With this, we'll open it up to questions.
Aldo, Steve, Gordon, thank you very much indeed for your presentation this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions just using the Q&A tab that's situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. But just while the team take a few moments to review those questions submitted already, I would like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard. Aldo, Steve, Gordon, we did receive a number of pre-submitted questions ahead of today's event, as well as you can see a number of questions that have come in throughout today's presentation. Firstly, thank you to all investors for submitting their questions. And Gordon, if I could please hand back to you just to open up that Q&A tab. If you could chair the Q&A session, and then I'll pick up from you at the end, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm just going to start reading some questions. I think probably one will hit, which is one we get quite a lot. Aldo, can you comment on one of the questions is, please can you talk to us about the political environment in Chile, particularly after the recent election of the left-wing party, and rhetorical about high taxes with mining companies? Has the business environment got any worse?
No, not completely the opposite. There's 2 things that are happening in Chile. One is the work of the convention to rewrite the constitution and propose all of us a new constitution. And there's been work at the commission level that's been rejected at the plenary level because it needs 2/3 approval on various ideas that have stiffed the market. But the government on the opposite side has been very open, not only to mining in general, but to lithium and what we're doing. We have today at 5 p.m. a meeting with the second highest authority of mining in Chile, with the aims of telling, and we've already been unofficially been talking on our clean approach, our commitment to help others in the sector with our direct lithium technology to promote also themselves in a green way, and the fact that we've been doing investments, and the fact that we have all these background of investors, institutional and personal people that are supporting the project. And their reception has been good, publicly in forums that we've attended, privately in conversations we've had. They need investment, and they are assuring that Chile stays as a safe country and promotes investments as we've always done. And that's what we're hearing, and that's what we expect to be hearing today at 5 p.m. in the formal meeting as well.
Just going back to the next question, Aldo, I'll just read the question out for listeners. Would you please outline with dates the information flow of testing at the Chilean lithium deposit sites over the coming year? So what's the information flow again? Just to repeat, Aldo.
Yeah, we'll have all the JORC and updated JORC resources for both sites around July of this year, when all the tests and sampling and everything has been completed and the drilling has been wrapped up. That's the timeline on that. That's fairly soon. Again, we've made an announcement that we have assurance that there's lithium in both drilling campaigns, but the samples are not completely accurate. As we're drilling, we're putting mud that it's biodegradable, and we're doing a lot of things that don't allow us yet to have full resource and then start working on all the updated JORC and reserves.
Yeah, and it'll be a continual process as well. We plan to commence a second drilling campaign in October of this year. We're already working on that. The information we're gathering from both campaigns at the moment is feeding into the next campaigns as we're learning the process. And as I mentioned it earlier, we'll look to step out and see where the boundaries of the reservoir are, which is going to be quite exciting. Just looking at the next question, just going down the list. When do you expect to have your pilot plant up and running? I think I'll quickly answer that one. I think we're planning to procure and start the procurement process within the next few weeks. We have the scoping study. We'll announce something hopefully at some point soon about the scoping study. And the plant will be having up and running in Q1 next year. That's the plan. There's a question mark about the all-in mining costs, and there's also a question mark about the cost of taking a ballpark cost of taking a project of this scale to production. So I'll just give you a flavour for the cost. This will all come out of the feasibility studies that we'll do. But in terms of the numbers that we're running internally, the average running cost of a facility like this is somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 per tonne. We'll probably be at the higher end of that rate because we're doing DLE. We'll need greater power. As Aldo has mentioned, we've got power on site, or we're within close to site. It'll be clean power. That's the one thing we're committing to. Chile's got one of the, in fact, I think it's the cleanest grid in the world. 60% of it comes from renewables. So we'll be in the sort of $4,000 to $5,000 a tonne. We'll have to test that when we're doing the feasibility studies. And then what does that do in terms of profitability? You're looking to build a 10,000 tonne per year plant somewhere around about $200 million. That sounds a lot of money, but people do maths on a 10,000 tonne per year facility at $20,000 a tonne, which is and then the current rate's 50, 60, 70. You can see that this is the economics are pretty strong. There's been a question mark about taxation. The taxation actually is well established in Chile. Even if there was to be any increases, they'd like to be marginal. We've already got a tax regime which has been agreed, which is probably more like what it's likely to be elsewhere. You're looking at a tax rate around about somewhere between 30%, which is all in. That includes royalties, corporate tax, and so on. It's in that kind of ballpark. And then the operating costs are around about 20-25%. Obviously, depends on the sale price, but the potential economic returns are extremely positive. I've got some nice models which throw off some nice numbers, and obviously we have to provide the fundamentals that drive that process over the coming years. I'll look at what other questions you've got. I think powering your operations, I think we've answered that one, Aldo, isn't it? The power, we've got power on site.
Yep.
And climate change effect availability of power, actually not at all, because we've got renewable power that will help us, if anything. Major shareholders, there's a slide on that, and say management have got 31% stake. the timetable for the new JORC updates that's been mentioned, it's likely to be late June, early October, once we've got the data in from the independent parties. What other lithium assets are there in Chile, and what stage are they at? Aldo?
Well, the major from a long time, SQM, excuse me, and Albert Marley have been extracting lithium and successfully selling it around the world from Salar de Atacama, that has the highest reserves and everything, but has a lot of stress on water constraints, as that basin is used by several copper mines, along with the community and along with these two large brine producers. Nearby us is Lithium Power, an Australian, a mix of an Australian Chilean enterprise that it's working towards production. It's actually north of us and west of us, so we are like a little triangle between the three of us, and they are a little bit more advanced with us, maybe a year or so, with their environmental work and the drilling campaign, and they've been successfully rewarded by the market with that. Again, the proof of our technology, we think it will open conversations and venues for other business developments. I think we mentioned that what will differentiate us from other listed companies, again, our credentials, our work, the fact that we're spending most of the money raised on the ground and will continue to do so, and that we started this path earlier, and we have not even disclosed yet all the strategic conversations we have. And there's your one just last question, right? The potential capacity throughout the limitations that DLE may have, and to what extent an installation needs to be customized to given project geology. There's one major factor into DLE, it's the magnesium to lithium rate. It can't be any higher than 15 parts 1 to 15. In Laguna Verde is 1 to 9.5. In Francisco Basin is 1 to 4.9, and of course it needs to be customized. Every brine has different impurities: boron, arsenic, calcium, lime, etc., and that need to be customized. But overall, the process of the mechanical and chemical process, it's the same. It's the same absorbent, nanofiltration, reverse osmosis, forced evaporation, and ionic exchange. But it varies. Again, needs to be adjusted. Our pilot plant will be movable and be scalable, and with that we can sort and use that work to serve different brines. There's another question that
I'll answer this one. How will the plant be financed? $200 million sounds a lot of money, actually, but when you've got a resource base, you'll be in a position where bank debt will be very much in play, or there'll be other forms of corporate bonds and other funding that can come into play. Another route that we can obviously look to is bring in partners. We'll have invested quite significant sums of money at the point by which we are looking to bring those partners in, and people will buy their way in a number of ways. As Aldo's mentioned, we have no offtake contracts at the moment. We're quite unique in that regard. There's been announcements literally in the last 24 hours about other entities entering into potential offtake agreements with major players. You could assume that we're being courted by parties. I mean, we've mentioned that a number of times. So we'll walk through steadily and see where we go. But I mean, in terms of funding a major project, Steve and myself have funded hundreds of millions of dollars of projects before, and we've got various routes to funding. Inevitably, there may be an equity raise that'll come, but that'll hopefully come at a point in time when the stock price is significantly greater than it is today. We've got to clearly prove that and move the price in the right direction, and that's what we're working on now. I don't have any particular concerns. If we prove up the resource and increase the resource, I have no concerns about funding a project like this because of the green nature of what we're doing.
Yeah, one last question came, and I think, Steve, this is good for you to answer, is, as you can imagine right now, there are currently a lot of clean energy mining companies floating on the market or intending to do so in the near future, even if you ignore the current listed ones. Investors have plenty of choice. Please, can you give me a short, concise pitch as to why should I invest in your company and not others?
Sure. Well, CleanTech Lithium is, in some respects, a unique company. We have a large lithium resource with terrific expansion potential, and they're in a basin, in fact, 2 basins that we totally control ourselves. There's no other parties in that basin. We intend to use a technology, direct lithium extraction, which combined with renewable energy leaves us with a very low carbon footprint. We return the water to the aquifer. So we will have the greenest lithium production, we believe, in the world. Gordon mentioned that we have not committed any of our future production to offtake agreements as yet. That's been a deliberate policy. We are looking at all of the battery manufacturers, the car manufacturers, and major mining companies looking to access lithium in the future, and not only looking at offtake contracts, but looking at taking equity participation upstream in those mining companies. We've seen Tesla talking just this past week about going into mining of lithium. We've seen BMW take stakes through Lilac into Lake Resources. We've seen Rio Tinto buy the Rincon lithium project in Argentina. And clearly, we are going to be subject to many, many courtships in the very, very near future. I think if you look at the location where we are in Chile, it's a traditional mining country. It's probably one of the best mining locations in the world. It's had long, stable government, very strong technical skills in the country. And above all, when you're looking at a project, you need to look at the management team. And our team have had very long experience at successfully bringing projects from early stage through into successful production.
Thank you. Thank you. That's kind of almost our closing remarks. Very, very well said, Steve. Thank you.
Aldo, Steve, Gordon, thank you very much indeed for addressing all of those questions that came through from investors. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if there are any further questions submitted today, we'll make them available to the company immediately after the presentation has ended, and we'll publish all those responses where it's appropriate to do so on the Investor Meet Company platform, and we'll notify you by email when these are ready for your review. Aldo, perhaps for redirecting investors to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to yourself and the team, could I please just ask you for a few closing comments to wrap up with? Thank you.
Yeah, again, like I said, Steve basically outlined every important thing we think. Sorry for this. Every important thing we stand. Most importantly is our commitment to move the project from where it is into development, and we're working towards that. So the assurance to investors is all our claims, all the things we said. We have a track record of working towards delivering them. So just bear with us with our upcoming news flow, and for the current investors, thanks for your support, and invite new investors as well. We're attending various shows in the UK. I just came back from a trip, that's part of my sore throat, and we'll be being in London in the next to be mining events in May. So thank you again, and thanks Steve, thanks Gordon as well.
Aldo, Steve, Gordon, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to update investors this afternoon. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, and I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of CleanTech Lithium PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation. That now concludes today's session, so good afternoon to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.